If you are inexperienced in business and you hear people saying like, oh, you got to analyze the data and look at statistics, before you make a decision. I used to think that that was some super complicated thing because I was never good at statistics. I was terrible at analyzing data in, maths in school or whatever. So I always thought, oh, well, fuck, this business thing seems so fucking complicated. You got to do all this data and statistics. But it's once you actually get into it, you just need to get to the brass tacks of what is going on. So in the Airbnb market, you could look at our DNA and you can look at, okay, what are all the occupancy rates and what's the best average daily rate and data, or you can just learn like, okay, how do we get to the bottom of the equation of what's going on in a city? How do we find the place that looks like it's booking? What kind of things do we need to consider to make sure it's worth checking a property? So for example, I wouldn't consider a property on Airbnb a useful point of data, which makes it sound way more complicated than it actually is. But unless a property has 20 reviews, I wouldn't consider it as a full-time Airbnb or a worthwhile considering too seriously in checking if that's a good Airbnb or not. But once you just know the basics of how to check for what you're looking for, you don't really have to worry about all of that, this complicated sounding shit like occupancy rate, ADR and percentages and all that sort of stuff. You can get a rough idea of when something is a home run or when it's an okay play. So yeah, people like me, I'm sure I use complicated terms a lot. Don't let people like me or others discourage you when we use big words that you don't really fully understand, because unless you're doing something super complicated like trading or investment banking, like these businesses like Airbnb, it's really not that complicated. Like you don't have to do data analytics or statistics and get intertwined and be a super genius to make an informed decision. Like you can just get to the brass tacks pretty quickly to make a decision on if a property is a go up or not.